And we have Intelligent here. You're the hip-hop vegan. That's what everyone knows you as.
Yeah. That's right. Hip-hop head since 1988. Vegan since 2000. I edited books written by rappers, published by rappers. My book was featured on Love and Hip Hop. I live and breathe hip-hop.
So what's up, everybody? Shanna G here. Award-winning model since 2006. Vegan since 2018. Featured in fashion shows and commercials, inside magazines and on the cover of magazines, and I've even been written about in an anthology.
We've been together for 5 years.
Bonded through our love for entrepreneurship, health, and entertainment.
I'm a graphic designer for my company, Koozie Arts.
And together we own Uswear, a clothing line that empowers people through fashion.
We're a vegan couple handling business and interviewing business owners.
So watch us prepare vegan food and review vegan restaurants.
And catch us entertaining ourselves through the arts, music, and other activities.
Welcome to VeganBiz.
Peace. It's Intelligent, the hip-hop vegan, coming live and direct from VeganBiz. Here in the office, chilling, just taking care of a little business. So you see my setup here. This is where it all go down, printing all the goods out. Little MacBook there. Of course, that's us on a computer. That's our clothing line, Uswear Apparel. You know, Uswear, you can go and check that out. Get some of these hip-hop vegan shirts and all the other good stuff. Doing some client work for one of my graphic design clients, you know, my company Koozie Arts. He was doing a poster for a documentary on Cuckoo Cow. You know, so just taking care of business as usual on the weekend. Sunday, while everybody's sleeping, we working. That's what we do. But yeah, you know, so I just want to touch base with y'all a little bit since it's the top of the year in 2020. So everybody is going New Year resolutions, trying to get things done. And so I've been evaluating my life because January just made 20 years for me going vegan. So, you know, that was, so, you know, 20 years strong. You know, when I started this back in the days, people was talking all type of crazy stuff. When you gonna get your protein and you ain't gonna last, you gonna shrivel up and blah, 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 all this madness. And, you know, so we endured all that, you know, because veganism is here to stay. You know, it's what works for me and it could possibly work for you. So, yeah, but, you know, my transition to becoming a vegan, you know, was a long and protracted one. Started when I was in prison, actually. You know, so prior to going vegan in 2000, I was a vegetarian for a little while, about 3 years actually. And prior to that, I was a pescatarian for a couple of years, just eating fish. So throughout those processes and eliminating things from my diet and evaluating health, because that was the reason I decided to go vegan, because life was paramount for me. I was in prison because I was trying to preserve my life. And what I mean by that, when you grow up in circumstances surrounded by chaos and death, like I did growing up in East New York, Brooklyn, which was the murder capital of Brooklyn back during the crack era, you start to begin to understand that life can be gone in a blink of an eye. So when I went to prison and I started learning about health and diet and food, and I started evaluating different people in my family that was coming down with, you know, those life-threatening things like cancer and heart disease and all that stuff that's knocking off folks regularly. I started to equate that with my need for the preservation of life. And that coupled with the fact I was serving a 19-year life sentence in prison. So I knew that in order for me to survive and come home healthy, I was gonna have to make some drastic changes. And for me, veganism was my outlet. But in addition to health, you know, I want to talk about some of the things that I just learned over those 20 years and the things that veganism embedded in me and help enhance. And one of the most primary on the top of the list is discipline. When I say discipline, I mean the ability to have self-control and the ability to not allow external influences to determine what you do and determine how the course of your life. You have to take self-control in life. And so I knew that in prison, I came to prison because I was young, caught up in the streets, running with the wrong crowds, and I ended up in a serious life-threatening situation. So I was in there for, unfortunately, taking somebody's life. But so I knew that in order for me to be successful when I get out of prison, if I was, fortunate enough to maintain good health and avoid all of the drama that go on in prison to get out, that I was going to need discipline in order to make sure that I don't go back to prison. And what I mean by that is when people come home, it's all type of stuff that can be enticing you in these streets. Jay-Z had one of the most powerful songs that I can remember, which was called The Allure of the Game, which he talked about the attraction or the glitz and the glam of the street life. So if in order for me to succeed after prison, I knew that I was going to have discipline so I don't fall victim to those things. I was going to have discipline for situations that could potentially put me back in prison. So that was important for me. So as I began to make my transition from initially just eliminating pork from my diet when I got knowledge of self, I started reading all these different books and books about diet, how to eat to live, African holistic health. Yeah, so when we're talking about discipline, discipline in the context of diet in prison and food in prison, you got to understand the role that food plays in prison. One, obviously, we're not getting top-notch stuff. So the little things that we do have that we get, whether it be in commissary or once in a while when they serve something decent in a mess hall / cafeteria, those things, you start to cherish those things. So at this time, when I was making that, ready to make that transition and the decision that I was going to become pescatarian, I was in a prison called Great Meadows, which is known as Comstock because it's in Comstock, New York. And so in this prison, in most of the prisons upstate New York, a basic diet for breakfast may consist of, if you're lucky, some toast that's really light. It ain't even really toasted properly. Or they may just violate you and just give you just raw bread and call that toast. And so you'll get a dry cereal, something like some no frills, fake cornflakes or bran flakes or something, possibly some juice. Once in a while, maybe once a month, you might get something like meat, some type of bacon or sausage. And that's significant because at that point, I'm eating meat. Although I'm not eating pork, I'm not eating bacon. I would eat a turkey sausage, something like that. That's something that would be significant to me because it's meat. When a person is eating meat and they're not vegetarian or something like that, meat is like the primary thing in your diet. And the fact that we don't get meat often in prison made it even more significant because it's scarce. You get it once in a blue moon. So you got, people that be waiting all month for them sausages to come in for breakfast. So in order for me to say, I'm going to bypass that and I'm just going to limit my diet down to fish, that in itself for me was a very, very big change and required a lot of discipline, a lot of self-control. So just at that very beginning stage, when I decided to go pescatarian, I knew it was going to require some discipline. But when I did it, I found out it actually wasn't as hard as I thought, because there was other alternatives that I had. So I would just rock out with fish. But the more and more I went and saw that it really wasn't that hard, it started to make me feel empowered because I knew that, it was a different for me. It was a challenge, but it didn't feel hard. So I was overcoming that challenge. So this is when I started to begin to really look at it from a discipline perspective. And I'm like, damn, if I can just cut my diet down to fish, I can eventually go the whole way because I wanted to go vegetarian and I wanted to go vegan because I knew, especially after reading that book, African Holistic Health, that was a wrap. At some point I was gonna have to eliminate all animal products. That's what that book taught me. If you never heard of it, you never read it, go check it, Google it. It's on Amazon, Leala Africa, Dr. Leala Africa, African Holistic Health. Brother also wrote another book called Nutricide. So anyway, as I'm going through this process now, I'm just living off of this diet of seafood primarily, chicken, which is another big thing in prison because you get chicken maybe every 2 months. So to eliminate that was big for me. And I was a chicken person, even though I was really a seafood person prior to becoming vegan. I was on that chicken. I was about that. So so that was big for me. So in the process of doing this, you got to put it in context as well. I'm doing other things. I'm studying. I'm learning about my culture. I'm learning about Black history. I'm feeling empowered through that. I'm looking at myself, evaluating myself. I'm meditating, I'm working out, so I'm feeling good. And all of these things is revolving around self-control and discipline. So the food process was just another facet of that. So eventually, in 1997, about 2 years in, I was like, man, it's a wrap, man. I need to just dead this fish and just go, vegetarian. And so I did that. That right there was big for me. That was a challenge, having no animal, no meat, pretty much. Because at that point I was still eating cheese and stuff like that on occasion. But that was big for me. And so as I did that for about 3 years, it was the same thing. It just felt empowering, man. Like I was just looking at my life. I'm reading more stuff about food, and I'm learning and learning different things. And it was just empowering me, man. I'm like, man, I need to stop playing games and just go vegan, go all out. Because at this point, I'm really not drinking milk because I was lactose intolerant anyway. So I wasn't big on milk, but I used to put it in cereal sometime. So I wasn't drinking milk, but I was eating cheese. So I'm like, man, I might as well just dead the cheese and start really scrutinizing all this other stuff I'm eating for these potentially meat byproducts. The stuff like whey and pectin that could, well, not pectin, but pepsin and all that stuff that comes from animals. So I need to start scrutinizing that a little more and just go vegan, man. And I did it, man, 2000. So it was a big deal for me. I didn't know nobody at that point in prison that was vegan. I didn't know a lot of people in prison that knew what the hell a vegan was. When I went vegan, dudes was bugging out like, what the fuck is a vegan? So, I got to explain that to people. And so it was big for me, man. It was just a really, really empowering thing. And so once I became vegan, and I was like, damn, I could do this, even in spite of the prison circumstance, man, I can do anything. And that's became my mentality, which is very, very significant because once again, when you double back, just, like 6 years earlier, because I went vegan when I was I was like 6 years in my bed. So 6 years earlier, I was at a point where I didn't feel I have control of my life. And like I said, that's why I was in the streets engaging in crime and all this other madness, because I felt everything was stacked against me and I was in a situation where I couldn't win. And so I just did things. And but with this new outlook on life that was coming about through veganism and other things that was empowering me to get disciplined, I knew that my potential was limitless. You couldn't tell me nothing. And so for me, I always say it, man, discipline. People need to really start looking at that in relation to how you eat and what that can do for your life. Because once you begin to take control of what you're putting in your body, you begin to take control of what you're putting out to the world. And what do I mean by that? We all project a certain energy in the world. We all contribute or take away from the world in some way. So if you have the discipline and control to control what you take in, you don't have to put out that negative energy. When somebody walk past you and bump you, you ain't got to kill them. You can let that slide. It's not that important. And that may seem insignificant, but situations like that have happened. People have died in the hood for literally just walking past and bumping into somebody. And people in prison get killed for telling somebody, to suck their private parts. So stuff is real. But when you got the discipline and you're a thinker, you can let certain things slide. You can look at the bigger picture and understand that, you don't have to react because you're in control. And for me, discipline and veganism, that's what it tells you. It tells me, yo, I'm in control. I do what I want. I don't allow anybody to control me. I don't allow circumstances to control me. I don't allow what the world says is the proper way to eat to be my way to eat, so that's very, very, very important. And I urge anybody that's vegan or that's considering going vegan to really start to evaluate how you eat from that perspective as well. So that's big. So I would say that's one of the main things I learned from veganism. And as I got home, I began to see it play out in different aspects because now I'm in a free society. I got so much other things pulling at me, 10 million things to do. And it takes a lot of discipline to balance things out, to schedule, to have an equal work and family life balance. You know, I'm managing different businesses. You know, I'm working side jobs and doing all type of things. So you got to put all those different things into perspective. So what I use to draw on that is the same discipline that I got from controlling what I took in my body. So now what I put out in the world into these different ventures, you know, is determined by my discipline. So yeah, so it's real, man. So think about that, man. When you're in a situation where you got to make choices, it's gonna be, you know, do I spend this money on this, or do I go blow this money at the club? You may want to go out there. You know, your homie man just came into town. You ain't seen him in years, but you know you got to take that money and put that money into investment. Put that money into that investment. Use the same discipline that you had to bypass eating these animals to deal with that situation, deal with your priorities. Because that's what being vegan is about for me as well, is dealing with priorities. And for me, the top priority was the preservation of self. I gotta be here in order to do anything, in order to help anybody, whether you're a vegan, you know, for a quote unquote ethical vegan, saving animals. You can't save animals if you ain't alive. So if your health is not right, you know, you're not here to do anything. For me, I understood very early the relation between health, like I said, and immortality, you know, because I've seen people die, man. I've seen my first person I seen killed, I was probably in second grade, you know. I grew up where it was 340 murders in a year. So you constantly seeing violence and engaging in violence. So I understand what it is. So in order to preserve life, we gotta eat better. We gotta work out. We gotta do these different things. We gotta think better. We gotta have discipline to not jeopardize ourselves and put our families and friends in a life-threatening situations. So all of these different things, man, is something that I relate back to being vegan. And because, you know, like I come from a unique perspective that, you know, a lot of people may not come from that's vegan. So maybe that's why I see it like that. But I do urge y'all, man, to think about it, man. Think about what I said. Just start to look at it from a different perspective, man. There's a lot of things that go into being vegan, plant-based or whatever. You know, there's the health issues, there's the environmental issues, which is serious. Because if we ain't got no environment, there is no us. There's no people here to make a better impact on the world or to work on climate change and to help enlighten people to the environmental facts of diet. You can't do that if you don't exist. And you can easily not exist by what you're eating. It's real. It's real talk. It's not a game. It's serious, man. People are dying every day. The leading cause of death in this country is heart disease. And we know heart disease is primarily coming from your diet, and primarily coming from your diet through cholesterol. The cholesterol is found where? In meat, not found in vegetables. So yeah, man, so it's real talk. It's the real deal. We need to think about this, and we need to look at, you know, veganism as a way of enhancing our discipline and bettering our lives in all facets. So, you know, I'll leave y'all with that. I don't want to drag it out too long. This is part one of this video. If you want to follow me, you can catch me online on Instagram at the Hip Hop Vegan. You can catch us on VeganBiz online. You can catch our clothing brand, Uswear, online. You know, so and that is what it is, man. I'll leave y'all with that. I say health is wealth. Peace.